Has Caitlin Clark's future with the Indiana Fever just been thrown into doubt, not by management, not by coaches, but by her own teammates? That's the bombshell question shaking the WNBA today. Sophie Cunningham and Lexy Hull, two of the Fever's most trusted veterans, bypassed every traditional channel of communication and went straight to the public with a message that stunned fans and blindsided analysts. No polished press release, no carefully worded team statement, no management figure standing at a podium. Instead, what the basketball world witnessed was raw, unfiltered, and deeply personal, a moment that carried more impact precisely because of how unscripted it was. In professional sports, announcements about star players almost always come from executives or the athletes themselves. That's the protocol. It allows organizations to control the narrative, to shape the message, to make sure nothing is said that could cause chaos. But Cunningham and Hull ripped that playbook to pieces. And in doing so, they created the kind of ripple effect no PR department could have planned for. The delivery itself was striking. No dramatic buildup, no flashy production, no corporate branding plastered in the background. Just two players sitting side by side, speaking from the heart, and that's why it cut through like a thunderclap. Their tone wasn't casual. It wasn't lighthearted. Every word they chose, every pause they took, carried weight. It was clear they weren't offering minor updates about a sprained ankle or a simple roster adjustment. This was bigger, much bigger. Fans immediately sensed it. Within minutes, social media lit up. Hashtags tied to Clark, Cunningham, and Hull surged across Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok. Fan pages exploded with theories. Analysts scrambled to interpret what was going on. Was Clark injured? Was there tension in the locker room? Was this a sign that the league's brightest new star was already facing problems that couldn't be hidden any longer? But here's what makes the delivery itself so controversial. By choosing to speak directly, Cunningham and Hull broke an unspoken rule of professional sports. Teammates aren't supposed to deliver news of this magnitude. That's management's job. That's the star player's job. Yet here were two of Clark's closest allies, making sure the story didn't stay locked behind closed doors. And so the question looms, was this announcement coordinated with Clark a deliberate act of solidarity? Or was it two teammates stepping in because they felt the truth was too important to keep quiet? Either way, the basketball world isn't just listening, it's reeling. This wasn't just an announcement. It was a declaration. A statement that something fundamental is changing within the Indiana Fever, and perhaps even within the WNBA itself. Why would two teammates speak for Caitlin Clark when the league, the front office, and even Clark herself remain silent? That's the question rattling through every sports newsroom tonight. Because make no mistake, what Sophie Cunningham and Lexy Hull did wasn't just unusual, it was unprecedented. In professional sports, the messenger matters almost as much as the message itself. And when it comes to a player of Clark's magnitude, the most hyped rookie in women's basketball history protocol is clear. The organization speaks first. The coach confirms. Maybe, if it's personal enough, the athlete issues their own statement. But teammates? That almost never happens. And when it does, it usually signals one thing: urgency. The fact that Cunningham and Hull stepped forward instead of deferring to executives has fueled wild speculation. Some insiders whisper that this move was made with Clark's blessing, that perhaps she wanted her closest allies to speak for her, knowing their words would carry authenticity that no PR memo ever could. Others argue the opposite, that Cunningham and Hull may have broken ranks, deciding the truth was too important to let management bury beneath sanitized talking points. Either possibility is explosive. If Clark orchestrated it, then she's rewriting the power dynamics between players and front offices. If she didn't, then her teammates may have just taken a bold risk, challenging the hierarchy of professional sports by seizing control of the narrative. The decision also changes how fans interpret the situation. If a general manager announces news, fans often roll their eyes, knowing it's corporate spin. But when it's two women who have stood shoulder to shoulder with Clark on the hardwood, who've bled, battled, and sacrificed with her, it feels different. It feels personal. Their faces, their voices, carried an urgency no official statement could match. It wasn't just a news item, it was a warning shot. And here's where the real danger lies: perception. In the WNBA, just like in the NBA or NFL, perception often becomes reality. When teammates are the ones speaking out, the immediate assumption is that something inside the locker room is boiling over. Fans begin asking, is there division between players and management? Are the Fever hiding something? Is Clark under more pressure than we realized? Suddenly, what could have been a contained storyline explodes into a narrative the franchise can no longer control. Sports history is full of carefully managed announcements designed to keep panic at bay. But this wasn't careful. This was disruptive. By placing themselves at the center of the message, Cunningham and Hull not only elevated the story, they ensured it would be impossible to dismiss. Their choice to act as messengers instantly made this bigger than Caitlin Clark alone. It became about trust, loyalty, and whether the Indiana Fever or the league itself could keep a grip on its own storyline. And that's why everyone from ESPN anchors to rival coaches is leaning forward, asking the same question: when the messengers aren't the bosses or the star herself, but her protectors, what storm is brewing beneath the surface? If you want proof that Caitlin Clark isn't just a player, but a cultural phenomenon, look no further than the chaos her teammates' announcement unleashed online. Within minutes of Sophie Cunningham and Lexy Hull speaking, the digital world detonated. Twitter feeds flooded with speculation, TikTok lit up with reaction videos, and Instagram stories became a non-stop stream of theories, memes, and hot takes. What was supposed to be a short message turned into the #1 trending topic in sports, and for a brief moment, it even overshadowed the NFL preseason chatter dominating mainstream media. That's not just news, that's cultural takeover. Fans weren't just reacting, they were dissecting. Every pause, every shift in body language, every subtle look between Cunningham and Hull became evidence in the court of public opinion. Entire threads popped up analyzing whether Hull seemed more nervous than Cunningham, whether their tone implied injury, drama, or something deeper. On Reddit, posts speculating about hidden meaning reached thousands of comments in under an hour. Even neutral fans, people who might not normally watch a Fever game, suddenly had an opinion. And that's the extraordinary part. Clark's story has crossed the invisible boundary that separates hardcore followers from casual sports watchers. Then came the hashtags: Pray for Clark, Fever Truth. Even Tres Leches, the fan-coined nickname for Clark, Cunningham, and Hull, surged back into circulation as people tried to frame the story not just as a crisis, but as part of a larger narrative of sisterhood and loyalty. And let's not forget the darker side of social media. Rival fan bases wasted no time piling on. Opposing team supporters mocked the Fever's handling of the situation, claiming it showed dysfunction. Others accused the league of exploiting Clark's fame while failing to protect her. What began as an announcement spiraled into a heated online war zone. But here's the key point. Social media didn't just amplify the story, it redefined it. Before reporters could even file their first articles, the online community had already created multiple competing storylines. Was Clark hiding a major injury? Was she unhappy with the Fever's management? Was this a locker room mutiny? In today's media landscape, those narratives spread faster than any official clarification, meaning perception effectively became reality. For the WNBA, this is both a blessing and a curse. On one hand, the frenzy proves Clark's unmatched drawing power. She is a ratings magnet, capable of turning a simple teammate statement into a league-wide cultural event. On the other hand, it shows how little control the league truly has over the Clark phenomenon. Once her name is attached, the story takes on a life of its own. And for Caitlin Clark herself, this social media explosion is a double-edged sword. The support is massive, fans rallying behind her, showing love and loyalty, but the pressure is just as intense. Every move she makes is magnified. Every silence interpreted as strategy, every word scrutinized. What Cunningham and Hull did wasn't just a statement to the fans, it was an invitation to the digital world to join in, and the internet responded like wildfire. The question now is, can Clark and the Fever keep the focus on basketball, or has this online frenzy permanently shifted the narrative into something much bigger than the game itself? When two teammates speak before management, before the coach, and even before Caitlin Clark herself, that's not just a story, that's a media earthquake. Within hours of Cunningham and Hull's statement, the traditional media machine roared to life. ESPN cut into its programming with breaking news coverage. Bleacher Report, Sports Illustrated, and The Athletic pushed notifications that lit up phones across the country. Talk shows, podcasts, and radio stations shifted their agendas to lead with one name: Caitlin Clark. What started as a simple teammate message had become front-page sports news. This is where the WNBA entered uncharted territory. Women's basketball, for all its progress, has long battled for consistent mainstream coverage. Yet here was a moment so compelling, so unpredictable, that it couldn't be ignored. Debate panels on national TV suddenly dedicated entire segments not to the NFL or NBA, but to the Fever. Anchors who rarely mentioned women's sports found themselves asking whether Clark was already the most influential rookie in modern professional basketball. And it wasn't just sports media. Outlets like CNN and even late-night talk shows referenced the drama, treating it less like an injury update and more like a cultural flashpoint. The frenzy wasn't fueled solely by the content of Cunningham and Hull's announcement, it was powered by the delivery. The authenticity of their message clashed sharply with the polished spin people are used to from front offices. That contrast made it irresistible for reporters. Journalists live for moments when the curtain gets pulled back, when the human element breaks through the corporate armor, and that's exactly what this announcement did. It gave the media a chance to tell a story not just about a player, but about loyalty, friendship, and a possible rift inside the Fever organization. And once the media locked in, the snowball effect took over. Every sports panel became a stage for arguments. Was Clark being overprotected? Was she already overwhelmed by the pressure of stardom? Did Cunningham and Hull just set a new precedent for how athletes should communicate with the public? Analysts framed it as a watershed moment for the WNBA, proof that women's basketball had officially entered the cultural spotlight where every story gets magnified. But here's what makes this frenzy so important. It wasn't just about Clark. It was about the Fever, the WNBA, and women's sports as a whole. For years, advocates have argued that what the league needed wasn't just more airtime, but compelling narratives that draw in casual fans. And suddenly, they had one. A rookie phenom, a bold, unscripted announcement, a social media storm, and now a full-scale media takeover. It was the perfect recipe for the WNBA to dominate headlines, even if the circumstances were turbulent. Still, the downside is clear. With every major outlet chasing the story, speculation only grows. The lack of official clarity leaves room for wild theories, and once those theories hit television screens, they gain legitimacy. What started as two teammates speaking from the heart has now become a multi-layered national debate, one that no press release can easily calm down. The media frenzy turned this into more than a basketball story. It became a cultural flashpoint, a referendum on how women's sports are covered, and a test of how much weight one rookie can carry on her shoulders. Is Caitlin Clark really the league's brightest star, or has she become too important to be left unguarded? That's the storyline Sophie Cunningham and Lexy Hull have created, whether intentionally or not. Their announcement didn't just update fans, it reinforced a growing perception. Caitlin Clark is more than just a rookie phenom. She's a target, and in that environment, she needs protectors. Cunningham, known for her fiery personality and fearless style of play, has leaned into this role almost from day one. She's the one who steps in when opponents get physical with Clark. She's the one who isn't afraid to draw technical fouls if it means sending a message, "Don't mess with our star." Hull, in contrast, is quieter, steadier, but equally important. She brings a sense of calm, balance, and quiet loyalty that strengthens the bond between them. Together, they've become Clark's shield on the court and her voice off it. And now, with this announcement, they've proven they'll protect her off the court as well. This has created a narrative that's as compelling as it is controversial. Fans have started to see Cunningham and Hull not simply as teammates, but as guardians of a once-in-a-generation player. Some call them Clark's bodyguards. Others see them as her sisters in arms. But the underlying theme is the same. Clark isn't fighting her battles alone. This perception matters because of how unusual it is in professional sports. Star players are often isolated. They may have teammates, but when controversy strikes, they're expected to carry the weight themselves. Clark's case is different. She's surrounded by veterans who have chosen to stand in front of her to absorb some of that weight. It's a bond that feels almost cinematic. One rookie with sky-high expectations, flanked by two warriors determined to protect her from the pressure. And make no mistake, fans love it. Every time Cunningham gets in an opponent's face after Clark takes a hard foul, highlight reels explode online. Every time Hull publicly praises Clark's resilience, fan forums light up with admiration. The protectors have become part of the Clark mythology, turning Fever games into more than just basketball contests. Their dramas filled with loyalty, confrontation, and unity. But here's the flip side. By stepping into the protector role, Cunningham and Hull may also be amplifying the sense that Clark is fragile, that she can't stand alone. Critics argue that the WNBA's rising star shouldn't need guardians, that her greatness should be enough to carry her through. Supporters counter that all stars need allies, especially in a league where Clark is targeted more aggressively than most rookies in memory. This debate only adds fuel to the fire. At the heart of it all is a simple truth. Cunningham and Hull didn't just speak as teammates, they spoke as protectors. And in doing so, they reshaped the story from one about a single player to one about loyalty, resilience, and unity in the face of relentless pressure. That's why their words carried so much weight. They weren't just speaking for Clark, they were standing guard over her in public view with the world watching. The question now is whether this protector narrative will help Clark flourish, or whether it will place even more pressure on her shoulders as the league's most scrutinized rookie. How does a basketball trio turn into a cultural brand? The answer lies in 3 words: Tres Leches. What started as a simple fan nickname has grown into one of the most unique storylines in sports. Tres Leches, Spanish for 3 milks, isn't just a playful label. It's a symbol of chemistry, unity, and a bond that transcends the hardwood. The trio of Caitlin Clark, Sophie Cunningham, and Lexy Hull didn't create it themselves. Fans did, and that's what makes it powerful. When supporters give a group a name, it means they see something worth elevating, something that feels bigger than the game itself. The term began spreading on social media after a few viral Fever games, where the chemistry between Clark, Cunningham, and Hull was impossible to ignore. Clark, the transcendent rookie phenom, drew defenders and spotlight. Cunningham, the fiery veteran, provided muscle and protection. Hull, the steady wing, quietly made plays that glued everything together. Three different personalities, three distinct styles, yet somehow they meshed into a rhythm fans couldn't get enough of. Soon, clips of the trio huddling up, celebrating, or defending each other began circulating under the hashtag Tres Leches. What could have been just another passing nickname instead took off like wildfire. Tres Leches became more than a meme. It became an identity. Fans wore shirts, made posters, and flooded comment sections, treating the trio not just as players, but as a unit. Even the media picked up on it, with broadcasters casually referencing the Tres Leches trio during games. Suddenly, the Fever weren't just a team, they were a story with characters, roles, and emotional depth. This is where the branding power comes in. Sports history shows us that fan-created identities, whether it's the Splash Brothers in Golden State or Lob City with the Clippers, can transform how teams are remembered. Tres Leches is on that trajectory. It's catchy, it's fun, but it's also symbolic. It represents sisterhood, loyalty, and balance. Clark might be the brightest star, but Cunningham and Hull ensure she's never alone. Together, they create something fans feel part of a movement that blends basketball with culture. But here's why it matters beyond hype. Tres Leches gives the WNBA something priceless: marketability. When you have a narrative that fans can rally around, it drives ticket sales, merchandise, and media coverage. Already, Fever home games are drawing unprecedented crowds. Jerseys with Clark's name sell out instantly. But now, fans are asking for Cunningham and Hull gear too, because they're invested in the trio, not just the rookie. That's the ripple effect of Tres Leches. It spreads love across the roster. And yet, the nickname also adds pressure. With an identity this strong, expectations rise. Fans don't just want the Fever to play, they want Tres Leches moments. They want to see the chemistry, the loyalty, the fire. Every game becomes a stage where the trio is expected to deliver not just basketball, but storytelling. Tres Leches may have started as a joke, but it's quickly becoming a brand. And in today's sports world, branding is everything. It's what separates great players from cultural icons. And Caitlin Clark, Cunningham, and Hull, they're on the verge of turning their trio into a legend that defines this chapter of WNBA history. For all the highlight reels and sold-out arenas, Caitlin Clark's rookie season has been less of a dream and more of a baptism by fire. From the moment she entered the WNBA, Clark was hailed as the savior of women's basketball, the player destined to elevate the league into the cultural mainstream. But with that crown came a brutal price. Every arena she walks into, she isn't just another rookie, she's the storyline, the headline, the ticket seller. That means opponents don't treat her like a first-year player finding her footing. They treat her like prey. Night after night, Clark is targeted with aggressive defense, hard fouls, and psychological warfare designed to break her spirit. And while she's put up staggering numbers for a rookie, the road has been anything but smooth. She's faced physical punishment on the court, the kind that would rattle even seasoned veterans. Guards bump her, forwards muscle her, and defenders trap her relentlessly, daring her to collapse under the pressure. Beyond the physicality, there's the scrutiny. Every missed shot, every turnover, every bad game is dissected endlessly across social media and sports talk shows. No rookie in recent memory, male or female, has been placed under such an unforgiving microscope. And that's the paradox. Clark's fame is her greatest weapon, but also her biggest burden. Cunningham and Hull's protective stance underscores just how intense this reality has become. They know what outsiders don't see: the bruises, the exhaustion, the weight of expectation pressing on their young teammate. Their announcement, their constant defense of her, isn't just about optics. It's about survival. Clark's path is unlike any rookie before her because she isn't being given the time or space to grow quietly. She's expected to carry a franchise, a league, and a movement on her back right now. And yet, what makes Clark's story compelling isn't just the struggle, it's the resilience. Despite the harsh reality, she keeps showing up. She keeps adapting. She learns from mistakes, adjusts to defenses, and responds to criticism with performances that silence doubters. She doesn't always win, but she refuses to back down. That resilience is why fans rally behind her, and why Cunningham and Hull see her as worth protecting. But here's the dangerous truth. Resilience has its limits. The WNBA season is long, the spotlight relentless, and the physical toll unforgiving. Can Clark sustain this pace? Can she bear the expectations of fans, media, and teammates without breaking down? These are the questions fueling debates on every sports desk in America. Her rookie season has been a reality check for her, for the Fever, and for the league. It's proof that greatness doesn't come without scars. And if Clark is to truly rise into the legend fans believe she can become, she'll have to endure not just the challenges of basketball, but the brutal weight of being women's basketball's chosen star. Caitlin Clark hasn't just entered the WNBA, she's reignited rivalries that have turned into the league's most dramatic storylines. In sports, rivalries are oxygen. They fuel fan, passion, sell tickets, and keep storylines alive long after the buzzer sounds. And with Clark's arrival, rivalries in the WNBA have gone from simmering to explosive. The most obvious example, the Fever's clashes with the Chicago Sky. Every meeting between these two teams has become must-watch TV, not simply because of basketball, but because of the raw tension, the heated exchanges, and the physical battles that seem to escalate each time they share the court. It's no secret that Clark, as the league's newest megastar, has a target on her back, and opponents have made sure she feels it. Chicago in particular has adopted an aggressive, no-nonsense approach, pressuring her relentlessly, bodying her up, and testing her mental toughness. The result? Games that feel less like regular season matchups and more like playoff grudge matches. Fans know it, broadcasters hype it, and social media treats every Fever Sky showdown like a cultural event. Clips of hard fouls, stare downs, and verbal exchanges trend within minutes. This isn't just basketball, it's theater. But Chicago isn't the only rivalry. Clark's very presence has intensified battles across the league. The Phoenix Mercury, with their veteran stars and championship pedigree, have made it clear they're not about to be overshadowed by a rookie. Other franchises, jealous of the spotlight Clark has brought to Indiana, play with extra intensity, determined to prove she's not invincible. For them, taking down Clark isn't just about winning a game, it's about sending a message. And then there's the subtext. Rivalries aren't just about teams, they're about personalities. Sophie Cunningham, stepping into her role as Clark's enforcer, has turned games into emotional battlegrounds. When Clark takes a hard hit, Cunningham is there to push back, fueling confrontations that fans eat up. Lexy Hull, though less fiery, adds to the drama by being the glue that holds the trio together in these tense moments. Together, they've helped transform ordinary matchups into spectacles that people can't look away from. This intensity has sparked debate about whether Clark is being unfairly targeted. Some argue it's part of the game that every rookie star goes through a trial by fire. Others insist the level of aggression she's facing goes beyond normal competitiveness, crossing into hostility that risks injury. Either way, the rivalries are doing something the WNBA has long needed, generating consistent storylines that casual fans can latch onto. It's not just Fever versus Sky, it's Clark versus her critics, Cunningham versus anyone who dares touch her teammate, and the Fever versus a league that seems determined to test their resolve. These rivalries are bigger than box scores. They're cultural clashes, moments that shape Clark's narrative and define how fans perceive her. And with every game, the stakes get higher. The Fever aren't just fighting for wins, they're fighting for respect, for survival, and for the right to prove that Caitlin Clark isn't just hype, but a force capable of changing the league forever. Caitlin Clark isn't just changing the Fever, she's changing the culture of women's basketball. When Sophie Cunningham and Lexy Hull stepped forward with their announcement, the ripple effect went far beyond Indiana. What they unleashed highlighted a truth that's been building since Clark was drafted. She's not just an athlete, she's a cultural phenomenon. And with Cunningham and Hull by her side, the Fever have become more than a basketball team. They've become a story fans can't stop following. The cultural impact is visible everywhere. Ticket sales for Fever games have skyrocketed, with arenas selling out weeks in advance, something unheard of in past seasons. Clark jerseys are top sellers, not only among WNBA gear, but across all sports apparel in the country. But what makes this wave different is that the momentum isn't limited to Clark alone. Because of the Tres Leches narrative, Cunningham and Hull are now part of the spotlight. Fans are buying their jerseys, making posters of the trio, and turning Fever games into cultural gatherings where the story is just as important as the score. Media, of course, has latched onto this shift. National outlets that used to dedicate only a fraction of coverage to women's basketball now run daily segments on Clark and the Fever. Late-night hosts crack jokes about the rivalries. Talk shows debate whether Clark is already bigger than some NBA stars in terms of cultural relevance. And social media? It has turned the trio into viral content machines. Every clip, whether it's a Cunningham scuffle, a Hull clutch play, or a Clark three-pointer, generates millions of views, spreading the Fever brand to audiences who may never have watched a WNBA game before. But perhaps the most powerful cultural impact is intangible: identity. For years, the WNBA has struggled with mainstream visibility. Now, thanks to Clark and her protectors, the league feels like a movement. It's not just about basketball anymore, it's about unity, resilience, and breaking barriers. Fans are showing up not only to watch games, but to participate in a cultural moment they feel is historic. Of course, this impact comes with challenges. With so much attention, the pressure to perform is enormous. Every Fever loss is magnified, every Clark misstep debated endlessly. Critics question whether this level of media saturation is healthy for a rookie or sustainable for a league still building its foundation. But the undeniable truth is that the Fever through Clark, Cunningham, and Hull have accomplished what few imagined possible. They've made WNBA basketball a daily conversation in living rooms, classrooms, and workplaces across the country. The cultural and media impact of this trio has transformed the WNBA from a niche interest into a mainstream spectacle. And if the league can sustain this momentum, it won't just be Clark's career that changes, it could redefine the trajectory of women's sports as a whole. In the end, this story is not just about basketball, it's about loyalty, resilience, and the unbreakable bond of sisterhood. What truly sets this announcement apart from the dozens of headlines swirling around the WNBA this season is not simply what was said, but the values it represents. When Sophie Cunningham and Lexy Hull chose to step in front of cameras and microphones, they weren't just delivering news about Caitlin Clark, they were making a declaration of loyalty. In a league where